When it comes to traveling, most people talk about the mainstream locations, but rarely do people talk about the least visited countries in the world. You probably don't even know some of these countries on this list, but hopefully this video can show you that no matter how remote or seemingly hostile a country might appear, every country in the world has its own charm that makes it worth visiting. We're gonna start this list with Sierra Leone, 58,000 visitors per year. The biggest problem in Sierra Leone is their infrastructure. It usually involves riding on unstable boats, which is something not everyone can take. Why should you visit? The journey is difficult, but definitely worth visiting. And another good thing about Sierra Leone is that almost everyone here speaks English. 13. Tonga, with 54,000 visitors per year. Tonga is a remote Polynesian archipelago that consists of 169 islands, most of which are uninhabited. The nearest countries to Tonga are Niue, Samoa, Vanuatu, and Fiji. Why should you visit? If Tonga can be described in 3 words, it would be unspoiled, gritty, and unfailingly authentic. Life at this island follows its own informal pace, and there's nothing that cannot wait for tomorrow. It's the literal definition of a lazy, tropical paradise. 13. Guinea Bissau, with 45,000 visitors per year. Just like a lot of other African countries, the infrastructure in Guinea Bissau is quite bad. Not a lot of airlines have flights to Guinea Bissau. Additionally, TAP Portugal even suspended all of their flights to Guinea Bissau after local police forced one of their pilots to take 74 Syrian refugees to Lisbon. Why should you visit? If you're looking for a country that doesn't show a lot of signs of modern life, this is the right place for you. Traveling to Guinea-Bissau is almost like traveling back in time. Most cities in the country are still dominated by old colonial Portuguese architecture, and Guinea-Bissau is one of the world's least developed countries. But that also means that you can find places like the Bijagos archipelago that consist of more than 20 beautiful untouched tropical islands that barely get any visitors. 12. Comoros, with 36,000 visitors per year. This unfortunate country faced 20 coups in the past 40 years, and in which the head of the state was assassinated. Statistically, that means that there's a coup in every 2 years. In case you're wondering why there is so much of unrest in such a small and relatively homogeneous country, here's one theory. Comoros is one of the countries with the highest Gini coefficient or inequality index, with half of the population living with less than $1 per day. Why should you visit? Comoros has some of the most amazing beaches in the world, with active volcanoes and some of the most rare species. Additionally, Comoros is the world's largest ylang-ylang manufacturer. In case you don't know what ylang-ylang is, it's a type of a plant that's used while creating some of your favorite perfumes. 11. Sao Tome and Principe, with 33,000 visitors per year. Like a few others on this list, many people don't know about Sao Tome and Principe. The country's own slogan is a well-kept secret. I have to admit that this slogan is a great description for Sao Tome and Principe. Why should you visit? Stunning colonial architecture, amazing seafood, and arguably the best place in the world for whale watching. And they also claim to have the world's best dark chocolate. 10. Solomon Islands, with 27,000 visitors per year. Solomon Islands are one of the most remote former British colonies. Even though geographically close to Tahiti and Fiji, the Solomon Islands are a far cry away from these countries. Why should you visit? If you're looking for a peaceful vacation, this is the right spot. More than 500 of the country's 900 islands are uninhabited, leaving you a lot of pristine islands to choose from. In addition to this, the Solomon Islands are one of the world's best diving destinations. And it isn't the regular diving this island is famous for. The Solomon Islands experienced a lot of battles during the World War II, and today is probably the world's only place where you can see World War II remnants getting colonized by sea life. 9. The Federated States of Micronesia, 22,000 visitors per year. The Federated States of Micronesia are one of the least visited countries in the world because of their location. This country is located third way between the most remote islands in the Philippines, Hawaii, and the eastern coast of Australia. Technically, this country consists of hundreds of islands, but only 4 of them are populated, and getting to them isn't an easy task. Why should you visit? You probably expect beaches, tropical vibes, and not much more from this country. But this country has a lot to offer. It's also home to an ancient temple which is as old as the Angkor Wat. In addition to this, the island of Chuuk is easily one of the top 10 diving spots in the world. 8. Kiribati, 7,000 visitors per year. Kiribati is probably the most isolated country on this list. It's a tiny island in the middle of the Central Pacific, and there are flights to Kiribati only a couple of times a month. Why should you visit? It's a beautiful and peaceful country with some amazing diving spots, and personally, it's a real surprise that Kiribati is one of the least visited countries in the world. 7. Niue, 6,500 visitors per year. Why should you visit? The whole country of Niue is basically a tiny, lush coral atoll. Most of the people have moved out seeking better opportunities, making this beautiful tiny island even more pristine. Niue is also one of the largest raised coral atolls on Earth, and its rugged, cave-packed coast makes it a perfect destination for people who want to get off the beaten track. 6. Marshall Islands, 6,000 visitors per year. The Marshall Islands is a remote archipelago in the Pacific that consists of 29 coral atolls. In addition to the remoteness factor, the Marshall Islands were also part of US numerous nuclear tests, which took place in the area known as the Bikini Atoll. Why should you visit? Just how often do you see a coral atoll, or even better, stay at one? Pictures from some of the atoll that comprise the Marshall Islands look too good to be true. 5. Tuvalu, 2,700 visitors per year. Tuvalu is a remote country in the Pacific that sounds more like a made-up name. There are only 2 flights a week that fly to Tuvalu, both from Fiji. And if Fiji, which is a quite isolated country itself, can send only 2 flights a week, you can imagine how remote Tuvalu really is. Why should you visit? You can have your own Pacific adventure, discover deserted islets, or see beaches without any footprints. If you ever want to get away from the rest of the world, only a handful of places can really compete with Tuvalu. 4. Mauritania, 2,500 visitors per year. The Islamic Republic of Mauritania chose to isolate itself from the West and cooperate with Iraq in the 80s. The country experienced 3 coups in the 21st century, and modern slavery is still a thing. With such a bad record under its name, it's no wonder that Mauritania is one of the least visited countries in the world. Why should you visit? Mauritania is home to 7 ancient towns that are vestiges of the country's rich past. Plus, it has some of the best places in Africa for desert safari. 3. Equatorial Guinea, 2,000 visitors per year. Similarly to other African nations, coups in Equatorial Guinea are not a rarity. But there are a lot of other factors that make visiting this country even more difficult. This country has a decent infrastructure, but apparently getting a visa is both difficult and expensive. This country is the largest oil producer in Africa. Why should you visit? The capital, Malabo, has a very interesting colonial quarter. That's home to the 2nd largest church in Africa. You'll also find some of the most pristine, untouched beaches, and if you're lucky enough, you might even see nesting turtles at some of the country's most remote beaches. 2. Somalia, 1,500 visitors per year. The unfortunate turn of events is turning Somalia into a failed country, with insurgents holding a large portion of the country under control. Governments around the world advise the citizens against visiting this country, which makes Somalia by far the country that has the lowest number of visitors per capita. Why should you visit? If you're an adventurous junkie or just love traveling to dodgy countries, Somalia should be at the top of your bucket list. 1. Nauru, 360 visitors per year. Nauru is the world's 3rd smallest country with 13,000 people living at less than 22 square kilometers. The whole island is a large phosphate mine, and Nauru lost a lot of its natural beauty because of these activities. Why should you visit? Nauru still has some of the most amazing beaches in the world and breathtaking coral reefs. Besides, it's one of the only 2 countries in the whole world that technically doesn't have a capital. Have you ever visited any of these countries? If no, where would you like to go first? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, check out our other travel related videos and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified with our latest travel related content.